So bit of a counter opinion here for me. I'm not particularly bullish. I think price action
Hmm.
will go up into the merge, but I don't have as positive an opinion about the long-term future of how this will impact the chain. Like
Hmm.
it'll be good for it. It'll definitely lower energy consumption, all of that stuff. But I do feel like, it's definitely the narrative that's being pumped right now is ETH merge is what we're trading. So we'll see how that wraps up later this year. I personally, I like the value proposition of Bitcoin. That kind of philosophically is what drew me into the crypto space.
Hmm.
2 years ago was really kind of learning how that fits into society. That's my personal take on it.
Hmm. Do you feel like though, because I feel like that's a lot, and including me, I feel like we're all bullish into the merge, and then there's all this like consensus that okay, you need to sell when the merge happens. Like it's going to be the sell the news. But if we're all going to do that, obviously it's not going to work. So like, what is your take, CMS intern, on like this journey up to the merge? Maybe the pump that we've got now, and then the outcome after it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the pump, right? It is narrative. Definitely
Hmm.
agree with Frank's intern there. Like, people see the merge, they're like, all right, we finally have an event that's happening in crypto. It looks like, I guess the NASDAQ is out of a recession fully. Like, people are looking to put on some risk, and like ETH is just easy trade right now. Um, I don't think anyone knows how it will play out, over the next 6 months. But I mean, my take would be right, like it pumps into the merge. People are assuming they're going to sell, so I would bet that that happens even a couple weeks before the merge, as a hedge against the risk if anything goes wrong, and just to like beat the people who are going to sell right after. But like, you also have to look at what happens to the tokenomics, right? Like ETH goes from a proof of work um, protocol into proof of stake, and with like burning, like there is this triple halving that's going to happen. So like natural sell pressure every day is going to get demolished, right? Like it's the ultrasound meme, but like that's a very real factor, right? Like there aren't going to be miners dumping tokens every day in order to get profit and like get actual US dollars out of their work. um so like I like gun to head, I would say like we pump into it maybe right before or after. We'll get like a little sell off, but like long term, it's super bullish for the price action of ETH is my take on it.
Hmm. Delphi intern, what's yours?
Yeah, so I kind of think it's just like the bell curve meme. Like both left and right side are just like, yeah, merge good. And then everyone in the middle is like, no, no, it's going to zero. Like, come on, they're gonna ruin it. Like, proof work chain's gonna take all the liquidity. Like, that doesn't even like make sense at this point because the stable coins chose proof of stake. So I think a lot of the fun of it like going wrong has kind of been like proven to be false in the last week or two. And that like I don't know, like proof of work chain will probably exist for a little bit, and then everything eventually is like going to zero because there's no off ramps. And I know we all joke about like being in it for the tech, but like this actually makes the tech significantly better. So I think like like really short term, probably up, medium term, who knows, maybe it chops, but like long term, like this is definitely a good thing for ETH. And I think, I don't know, it's also like we have a weird macro backdrop to throw in like the biggest event in crypto ever. So like really, I don't know. I'm an intern. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I think long term it's probably good.
Yeah. And you mentioned so like there's this view of like forking and then having like a proof of work chain. How sustainable do you actually think that is? Because who's going to build on it? So I think we were like talking about it yesterday. So for Ethereum Classic, like there's nothing I don't think built on it. So there's probably a reason for that. And then also, if you have the proof of work chain, like correct me if I'm wrong, but you're basically just going to have that sell pressure right from miners, and then you rely then on having like equal buy pressure um, for it not to basically just go down, down, down the whole time. So do you think there is actually going to be like people behind, like a community behind this, or is it just kind of miners? And yeah, what is the outcome of that? Does it just seem like another narrative that everyone is just talking about at the moment because it's something to talk about, or do you feel like there's a genuine passion for this fork? Frank's intern, if you start us off.
Yeah, I wish I would have been around back when this was going on with Bitcoin to see how we could compare and
Mm.
contrast these two. I personally have a hard time believing that this proof of work ETH fork is going to be sustainable for more than a couple months after this. I don't see any developers truly committed coming out saying that that's the one they're going to build on, and I think ultimately everything's going to follow the developers.
Yeah. CMS Intern.
Yeah, I would say if the main thing that drives adoption and development, right, is going to be price action, that means you're going to need a market for ETH proof of work token, which means you're going to need someone who's willing to buy at a certain price. So I think, yeah, outside of like the chop of the first few months of people just trying to make a quick profit, like again, to speak on the Bitcoin thing, right? Like Bitcoin Cash, that was a massive war that went on. There were huge players backing Bitcoin Cash. Like Roger Ver at the time was like one of the largest names in all of crypto, right? He was like Bitcoin Jesus, the first investor in a ton of different companies in the space. He was backing this thing. There were a bunch of people that believed it, right? They wanted true peer-to-peer cash. Bitcoin, the way it stands, couldn't handle that. So like there was a real movement behind it. So there were buyers, right? And so then Bitcoin Cash has market value. People can speculate on it. I don't think there's been anyone with like any real knowledge of the space or say on it that are behind the proof of work, right? I think it's just something that, like, if you're early to an edge case of crypto, that's where like you can do incredibly well in terms of returns, right? So a byproduct of that happening so often is that people are always looking for these crazy fringe cases and being like, how is this going to trade? How's it going to work? So I think the proof of work, like everyone talking about it, is really just one thing where they're like, this is probably going to be a chain, right? There's going to be miners that aren't just going to shut off the rigs. They'll probably mine the proof of work chain. So then they're like, how does this all trade, right? So then everyone gets all bulled up, or not bulled up, but like everyone starts thinking about it. How can I trade this? How can I profit? But like, I don't know. In my mind, there's like pretty high conviction. It's just a nothing burger. I would love if it wasn't, right? Because then all of us get free dividends on any of the ETH that we hold, or any other assets on ETH-L1. But like, I don't see any actual traction behind it in that. So
yeah, I think like you just mentioned, actually, it seems to me like it's just something people are thinking about. How can I trade it? Which is exactly like we said. They're not thinking like this is a really good product, whether like sustainable. It's just how can I trade it, which is probably, at a guess, is like probably pump initially and then die a slow death as like people get bored of the narrative and then move on. Watch me be completely wrong there and be clipped, and it's like world changing. Also, I want to ask, which are probably within asking on your opinion, Delphi Intern, what does anyone understand how this differs anyway? So like ETHW, if it exists, compared to Ethereum Classic, what is that difference?
I honestly have no idea. I don't know why. I don't know why you would choose the new forked ETH over Ethereum Classic. I guess because like all the stuff is currently built on it, so it would be forked. But if no one's going to use it, it doesn't really last. I don't know. I think like miners will probably try to make ETH proof work happen for a bit because they've invested in the rigs and want to squeeze out like as much money off their investment as they can. But at that point, like hasn't even like Vitalik endorsed Ethereum Classic as like, oh, it's a perfectly fine proof of work chain. So like, I don't know, if someone's like a diehard ETH proof of work, I feel like you'd probably go to Classic over the forked chain, especially like we said, there aren't really on ramps and off ramps for proof of work. Like no one's giving you the option to trade it. It's just like money locked in this forked ETH world. So I don't know. I kind of think that it'll be supported by miners for a bit and they'll cash out what they can. But like, I think it kind of comes back to that like CT echo chamber idea where like everyone started talking about it and then it snowballed and everyone's like, oh, this might actually happen. How do I trade it? And it kind of just like perpetuates the narrative. Like I've had so many different people be like, oh, what do you think about like longing spot ETH and shorting perps in case it goes down? But then I still get the airdrop. And I'm like, it's what a lot of people are saying, man. Like maybe it's the play. I don't really know. I'm just going to hold my ETH.
I think last question on like this merge. It's probably a short one because I don't know if there's that much to say on it, but like there's this view of is there going to be values for NFTs, like more value for NFTs that came from like the proof of work era versus proof of stake era. To me, that sounds like a load of rubbish. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. But again, I could be wrong. Yeah, what do you think? Frank's intern.
I mean, look, we do have this kind of ADBC thing that seems a little arbitrary. So maybe that'll be the NFT equivalent. I don't know.
CMS intern, will your punk be worth a load more money?
Yeah. I don't know. Like there is a case to be made, like for apes and punks. I don't know the other ones. I would guess punks, right, would be the obvious example here, where like you own it, and then obviously once ETH goes proof of stake, there'll be the proof of work chain, and like the NFT will exist there the same way that everything that exists on ETH right now is going to exist on this chain. I mean, if at risk of getting canceled by everyone who cares about crypto and understands the community, like you could probably go in with a bunch of basically free proof of work ETH and buy a punk off someone who didn't delist it. Like you almost certainly get canceled for it, but like you could trade it around.
Yeah, Delphi intern, what do you think about this? Is it a stupid narrative?
Yeah, I mean, if we don't think the chain's gonna hold value, I don't think the NFTs will. But I mean, if floor drops, like I'm definitely spending my imaginary ETH on a real punk that turned fake, because like I don't know, that's kind of like a meta meme. Like if I can own a crypto punk on Ethereum and it's technically legit, but I got it for free, like I'm in. I'll take my free punk. That'd be sweet. So I don't know. I don't think they're gonna have any real value, but there's definitely gonna be people buying them with fake value.